So, let me address you, and as I say, it's a great, great honor to just say a few words to you. And I've thought long and hard about what I would say, and what message should be appropriate. And, I'm often asked in my role about what it is that creates success. Is there kind of a roadmap to success? And it's often asked as if there's some unique algorithm that you can follow, and if there is, whether I know it or not, and I certainly don't. But what I will tell you, relate to you, are my observations about success, what makes people successful. And these observations I've kind of made, and we've made as a team, in developing people over 2.5 decades. And I've worked with some of the smartest people, and I've tried my best to learn from them about what it is that creates success. And so I hope you hear this and it makes sense to you. But I'll tell you the first thing, is that real and sustainable success is not about money. It's about purpose and it's about impact. The rest tends to follow. And therefore I urge you, whatever you do, I urge you to follow your heart, I urge you to follow your passion and focus on purpose and impact. That is the most important thing. It is hard to be sustainably successful if you're just chasing money or some counterfeit. You need to focus on purpose and purpose and impact. But let me talk about a few behaviors that I have seen that lead to success. It's not guaranteed, certainly not, but these are kind of attributes in a way. And they're pretty paradoxical and pretty simple. Everything, what I'll tell you here, you probably know anyway, you've heard of them. But what I think makes them complex or paradoxical is that they're intuitive, but they're elusive. They're elusive because they're kind of shrouded in cognitive errors that people tend to make. So let me take you through my thinking, and as I said, this is not academic in any way. This is my observations of over 25 years of building our organization. The first attribute is you need the ability to set goals and dreams and execute upon them. That is a critical thing. Let me tell you why. It's interesting. Whenever you hear that, one technology company, Apple, makes 80% of the profits in the sector, you think that's strange. When you hear about 60% of the tweets or generate about 2% of the people on Twitter, you think that's strange. It was mentioned earlier, inequality. When we hear that 1% of the population control 40% of the world's wealth, that's a terrible thing. It's one of the biggest things we face today. But we think this skewness is an aberration. The issue is that we feel this way because we inherently yearn for symmetry. We yearn for uniformity. We yearn for fairness. And academically, we talked about Gaussian distributions, bell-shaped distributions that are inherently symmetrical. But I'll tell you that is an error of logic, because I challenge you to find things that are normally distributed. Those of you, and all of you, I assume, have studied some form of statistics. Very few things have kind of a bell shape. The only things I think you'll find are those things that are natural phenomena, the heights of people, IQs, those kind of things that are not interrelated. But the fascinating thing is in any interconnected system, you don't get a uniform or Gaussian distribution. What you get is a Pareto distribution, 80-20. A lot of things on one side and then a long, long tail of the distribution. And so when you look at, for example, our business, health insurance, you'll find that a small proportion, 15 to 20% of people, generate 80 to 90% of the claims. It's all in the long tail that to an extent drives the entire system. And I'll tell you this, wherever you go, you will find this 80-20 rule applying. Very seldom will you ever find any kind of uniformity. So it is absolutely pervasive. It is also stubborn. One of the points I've just made it as well. Income inequality. It's one of the biggest challenges of our time. But it's incredibly hard to fix. If you look at China, Vietnam, the US, the UK, all have Gini coefficients that are kind of unrelated to their political systems. So even systems like China that for years had communism and socialism are remarkably unequal. So that distribution is very difficult to change. And then amazingly, it's recursive. We find that if you look inside the tail, there are more tails. So in our business, health insurance, you find that 20% of the people consume 80% of the claims, or generate 80% of the claims. If you look inside that 20%, you find there's another 20% of that 20% that generates 80% of those claims. And if you look under a magnifying glass, you'll find another 80-20. So if you look in the tail of the distribution, you'll find these little tails. It's a remarkable phenomenon. Now, it may sound kind of threatening and inappropriate, but it's actually a very powerful result, and I think very pleasing. Because in reality, any interconnected system I think is distributed in a Pareto way. And I'll tell you this, and I think this is important, is that there's no more interconnected system than your own life. The decisions you will make are Pareto distributed. There are many of them that are basic and have no meaning, but there are many in the tail, in fact a few in the tail, that will determine your destiny. They will determine whether you leave a legacy or not. And therefore you need to understand the power of the tail of the distribution. In my particular story, or my journey, the tail is quite simple to explain. One day I decided to start discovery. That was a tail event. Nothing has been the same since. Every single action, every single decision somehow is intertwined in that decision I made in the tail. So the ability to act boldly and to set goals is a fundamental attribute of success, because it lubricates the tail, and that's what you need to do. The second attribute, and a lot of research shows us, is that success is about being urgent. You've got to get moving. You mustn't waste time. And the cognitive error that people make is that they believe that time is linear, but it's not. It's logarithmic. You're sitting here with the rest of your lives ahead of you. You've achieved a huge amount. This is a very, very important milestone, I can tell you. It's a remarkable gift you've been given. But you kind of think the rest of your life is a long time. I'm here to tell you that it isn't, right? Mathematically, you could work out that if you, 20 or 25, I'm assuming people here are 23 to 25, crudely you might think that you have lived a third of your life, 25 divided by 75. If you don't get that right, I'm concerned about the degree being given. But 25 divided by 75 is a third. So you've lived a third of your life, you've got 2/3 left, right? But the error there is that you assume every year counts the same. But they don't, you see, because time has a perceived quality. When you're a year old, a year is 100% of your life, right? When you're 2 years old, a year is 50% of your life. When you're 3 years old, a year is a third of your life. As you get older, the years get shorter. I've yet to meet anyone who doesn't agree with that observation. So to rework how long you've lived, you shouldn't work out 1 plus 1 plus 1 to 25 divided by 75. You should do it my way. 1 plus a half, plus a third, plus a quarter, all the way to 1 over 25, divided by 1 plus a half, all the way to 1 over 75. That's how long you've lived. And I hate to tell you, you know what the answer is? It's not 33%, it's 80%, right? You've lived a lot of your perceived life, and I'm not here to disappoint you or depress you in any way. I'm just telling you, the difference between success and failure is a sense of urgency. You don't have time. And in my journey, I started discovery, I was 27 years old, just a few years older than you, and I've been flat out for 25 years. Flat out. I think me and our team here who's with me have achieved a huge amount. But I can tell you, if we were not urgent from the get-go, I think we would have collectively missed the opportunity. And so I urge you to treat time with great, great respect. It's the biggest thing that you need to deal with. The third attribute, and I think to an extent is the fuel for everything, is the ability to be positive and to seek positive signals. This is in fact a crucial error, and the error that people make is they believe that being negative is realistic. They believe that being negative is conservative, it's the right response. I'm here to tell you that it's in fact absolutely the wrong response. And I'm kind of citing evolutionary biology to tell you this. We evolved on the savannas over millions of years, right? Life was brutal. Life expectancy was 30 years. 1 in 3 infants died. Threats were about scarcity, there was too little food. Threats were about being eaten by wild animals. And so we evolved, and that's how our brain works, to seek negative signals. That's what we do. That's how we stayed alive, right? The problem is that there's a mismatch. The agricultural revolution, the scientific revolution, the cognitive revolution only took place in the last 20 or 30,000 years. That's not enough time for us to have changed. So we're kind of living with a primitive brain in a different environment. Our threats today are completely different. We don't have a threat of scarcity. Our threat is abundance. We know in our organization that's what we deal with. People are eating too much, smoking too much, resting too much. Those 3 behaviors of abundance drive 60% of mortality and 80% of the disease burden. Right? Our threats today are not physical, they're threats of systemic failure, the constitution, the judiciary, institutions. That is what threatens us. And I will tell you, in an environment like that, seeking negative signals is a primitive urge. Turns out that seeking positive signals is resisting a natural urge. That is what sophistication is. And so far from being a soft idea, being positive, it's in fact a sophisticated response to a world that I think has changed over the last 10,000 so years, just our brain hasn't followed that. And I urge you to be positive. You will see opportunities, you will see the world in a more realistic way, and you'll influence systems. When you're out there managing people, it's about seeking positivity, it's about creating hope, it's about creating vision, and that is absolutely crucial. So I urge you along that journey to be positive. In my own case, we started Discovery in 1992. It was a threatening time. Apartheid was coming to an end. There were threats of potential civil war. It wasn't clear how the country would turn out. But I had, I think, just good fortune of being positive when others were negative, of investing when others were disinvesting. And to an extent, I think that's why we are here today. So my message to you is to really think about a few things carefully. I really think that you need to think about 3 attributes carefully. The first is being bold, setting targets, but do achieve them or execute quickly. Time is short. It is not linear, it is logarithmic. And then finally, I urge you to be positive. That will fuel the rest for you. Let me end by just giving you an example of positive signals versus negative signals. Our country. We live in a beautiful country, full of opportunity. It is easy to seek out the negative. You'd be wrong. It's easy to think the country is getting worse. You'd be wrong. A few statistics. Since 1994, 1996, our statistics are, the country you think has been in decline, or you might think it's been in decline. Quite the opposite. We have massive challenges of inequality, unemployment. We have to fight. We have to transform the environment. But the country, the GDP is 70% higher in real terms. People often don't know these statistics. Life expectancy is 9 years longer. The black middle class is bigger than the white population today. And people in the LSM, the lowest 1 to 4, kind of the poverty levels, has more than halved over that period. We are doing better. And I urge you to seek the positive, because you are the leaders of the future. You are the tail of the country, in my analysis. And you need to go out there, I think, and do great things. There is nothing really limiting you. I wish you only great success and great fortune, and follow your heart. Thank you for listening.